curious.
I love that expression. Yeah. AI curious. Yeah. Do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Delano. I'm from Texas. I run a company called CourseClout.com, and we have a sister brand, CourseMarketers.com. We've had a lot of AI clients in the past year, like 5 or 6. Working with Genius Group.ai, and AI powered here in Bali, and I'm also AI curious.
Hello, my name is Dominic. I'm a full stack developer. I guess I use AI tools for trying every day. So,
My name is Sean, I'm a news publisher, and I'm not AI curious, I'm totally convinced. I think, in fact, businesses like mine are slowly evolving to the concept where we are not going to be producing news, but we're going to be producing the content that influences that LLMs. So I want to start a whole pile of businesses that are just trying to influence LLMs, that's all. My latest one that I am starting to think about now is this concept of maybe instead of having directories for different industries, like trying to find the data center in a certain area, instead it's people are going to go directly to ChatGPT and ask which data center would you recommend in Calcutta, and I want to be influencing that. So yeah, I guess that's the updated version of a news publisher, but LLM whisperer.
Yeah, I love it. And highly recommend as well you reach out to James Banks if you haven't already. He put up a seminal post the other day about what he's actually implementing for his clients as this becomes a reality. And he thinks by Q3 2020 this year that we will have moved there in Australia. It's already there
Wow.
in the US.
I know my own behavior, I just don't do as many
Yeah.
Google searches
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. So, where have we got to? Should we go to? Yeah.
Hi everyone,
Yeah.
I'm Gabrielle. I work in films and I'm exploring how to use AI as a creative partner and also for production and for music maybe.
Hi everyone, I'm Maël. I run a private credit fund, so it's a fintech with bridge liquidity from France and Europe to Southeast Asia, using AI to basically automate everything. So yes, it's a great employee.
Hey everyone, I'm Danny. I'm a dev. This is my 3rd time in Bali. Originally from the States, but I've been living abroad for the last 6 years. Recently I've been using AI to help me with everything. And I'm also building some apps with AI, so I'd love to learn a bit more.
DJ, also from the States, been living abroad for around 8 years now. Investor who's just looking for great companies to invest in, especially AI agent up and coming businesses.
Hello, my name is
Tony.
My background is industrial engineering and robotics. And today just my mind blew up because I realized that here what we have to do to adapt quickly to AI is to build systems where we can adapt to the AI. Because I think we're doing everything like the old fashioned. And there is new ways to do everything as AI wants to go faster. And I think it's mind-blowing what is coming.
Shall we go to the back row? Hanging out at the back row, Jack?
I run an agency called Systemize, and we basically systemize other businesses with Notion and AI.
Notion guru himself, and our YouTube royalty himself, Chris the freelancer.
Yeah,
Could you introduce yourself?
I help e-commerce brands on Shopify with their front-end web development needs, and I'm here to stay on top of AI so it doesn't get on top of me.
I'm Tom from UK, and I'm a data engineer by background. I'm trying to use AI for data cleaning, so I just started a company in that because that's what I'm doing my last job, and it's very effective. Like, it's crazy if you've got a database of like 1 million records, then just getting AI to do the actual coding of all the business rules, but then also you pass all the data through it and ask it questions, like clean it or to flag duplicates or things like that. So
absolutely, yeah. And
Well, I am Joy. I have an investing teaching company called GPTs. And then I also wanted to maybe, like code my own app with the vibe coding. So I just wanted to see what like AI could be helpful with.
Everything. And Rix, do you want to intro yourself?
So I'm Rix from Australia. I do systems transformation companies, and I had a brand and design agency for 10 years, so I just kind of closed down, and I kind of want to move into systems and operations and AI stuff. I'm currently working with a client. My main client's in Botswana right now, and
Which is really, really good to hear, So, today's we are going to talk about a number of things, but there's a theme to today, which is all about kind of where we're going with content creation, and particularly with music and with sound. If we can indeed get the television to behave itself, we are adjusting the quality. Perfect, okay, we're good. So what we're going to talk about today, the first story, is upgrades to 11 Labs. Everybody know what 11 Labs is? Yeah. So it's a great, amazing software that can basically clone your voice. They've just put out an upgrade to version 3, and it's pretty good. And one of the main features is that you can actually have tags, so you can change the expression of the character. So we dive into 11 Labs. And let me just share my screen for the benefit of those who already got live. For Bradley.
Working out the hot new tool isn't actually using the tool.
So, doing this. So I'm going to share with you one of the projects that I'm working on. This is kind of my weekend project. So I started life as a writer. I still am a writer. That's kind of my bread and butter. And I'm working on publishing my next book as an audio book. We're going to talk a little bit about Spotify next and how you can use AI with Spotify and some of the opportunities that are arising from using AI with Spotify. But one of the things we're going to talk about later is how you can actually put an audio book on Spotify. And so I've started to use AI to create the audio book for my book, but rather than just go down the path of having one narrator, I've actually created all the characters. There's about 30 or 35 characters in it. It's set in a boarding school, so there's teachers and students. And so you can have an individual voice for each of them, and then you yourself can narrate it. So it's a big project, but it also really shows you the power of AI as well. Like for me to actually be able to put a production in place with like 30 different voice actors, and I want to specify, one of them is like a Scottish middle-aged man with a booming voice, and another one is a teenage girl with a high-pitched voice from London. To gather all those people in one room would A, cost an absolute fortune, and B, would require a lot of time and resources. You've got to put on auditions to find the right people. What 11 Labs has is an ability to actually create a voice using AI from scratch. So you can go in there and say, I want a voice that's like XYZ, and you can create it. So I've cloned my own voice, so you'll hear me narrating it, but you'll also have AI characters as well. So it almost feels like I'm narrating it, but there are characters in there as well. So I see a lot of people talking about using things like this to basically speed up the process of creating an audio book. But I think there's an opportunity there to actually go further, to create something higher quality than you would be able to if you just went to a recording studio and recorded it yourself, which I think is amazing. So that's what I've been focused on. So this new upgrade to 11 Labs, which is very cool, is just in beta. So 11 Labs have like a studio. So if you're working on a big project, you can just bring in a PDF.
Okay, so this might sound silly, but I just got this weird sparkly feeling in my chest, and I think
why is that
I think I'm actually falling in love.
Yeah, where is that coming from? That was no me. That was no me. I don't know where that. I honestly, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you could, So with 11 Labs, they have a studio, and you can import a PDF or you can import a document, and then you can turn that into whatever you want. Studio is not available yet with version 3. Version 3 is the one that has the tags on it. So just so you can have a little bit of a demo to show you how it works. If we go to home, and then we press, let's say, instant speech. We change.
Is there such thing as like a LoRa, where you have an images to try and replicate this voice again and again, or you sort of save it as a preset? Or?
Yeah, you can save it as a preset, but there doesn't seem to be such thing as a LoRa. That's a really good question, and it's something that I've struggled with, because I find a voice that's almost quite right, and I want to try and adjust it slightly, and I haven't been able to so far. You have to manually change the settings, and if you try to recreate it, you can't. You're constantly trying to find a battle. So if you find one you like, you kind of have to save it. So I have like version 1, version 2, version 3. I've got like almost like I'm doing an audition with AI models.
You can't save or train a voice. It just sort of dynamically generates it every time there's a creative process.
There's a creative process that you go through once to create the voice, and then you save it, and you can apply that to any text, and it's saved in your memory bank. What Sean was talking about was a kind of process where if you found one, you could basically slightly adapt it, I guess, or train it or bring it back.
So you're saying there's no fine tuning, it sort of generates at once, and that's it.
And then you could play around with the settings, and you can in the narrative, in the studio mode as well. You can say I want it to be sort of more. You can give it more choice to modulate, or you can restrict its choice so that it's more that it just does what you tell it to. I guess temperature, they haven't called it temperature, but a similar concept. There's about 4 different panels to change it. So when you have a long document, you can edit it and tweak it. But what you can't do is, if you made a voice with AI, is like make that voice again. Like it's unique. It's unique. So once you've created it, or you have an option and you like it, you kind of need to save it, because you won't be able to get it back if you want to do a regeneration and then come back to it. Which I think is pretty cool, because it means the voices in my book will be unique, so there won't be anyone who'll be able to replicate it. Or you could use other clones of other people. You can even license your voice. So the clone of my voice, you can actually, might be able to, once I've set it up, you can actually rent it out and you get royalties for that. So there's a lot of really cool options with this. But let's just demo version 3 so people can test it out. So we'll demo version 3 alpha. And I will show you something that I've made as well that is going to go live, I think, tomorrow or Wednesday with a clone of my voice. So this is version 3, and you can see we can put a tag after it, and we can say, angry or passionate. Let's say passionate, maybe not angry. And then it comes up as an option. We can say, happy or sad. Let's see what he does. So this is in alpha, so I have a feeling it might be a little bit weird. So we'll say, okay, we've enhanced it with alpha. Let's generate some speech.
It's not a scam.
It's not a scam.
guys, do you want to, like, can we not talk amongst ourselves? Because then we want to share the ideas with everyone. So,
Okay, so this.
it's obsessed with bringing up this hope voice. Let's see how we can. I think we need to generate the speech.
Does it do it live, or does it go away and generate it and then give you the file?
It generates it and it gives you the file. So when you're making a large audio book, you kind of have to export it to be able to hear it fluently. Sometimes it can get a little bit still.
Your employees are using ChatGPT wrong, and it's costing you thousands. Annoyed. They're asking write me an email instead of thoughtful. Write a professional follow-up email to a client who's 30 days overdue, maintaining our relationship while firmly requesting payment. Confident. The more specific prompt, the greater prompting, and watch productivity actually increase.
I feel like it's made me sound a bit more northern than I maybe am. Yeah, it sounds like I'm from the north of England, yeah.
Was that your voice that you climbed?
So that was my voice that I cloned. This is with version 3, so we can compare it to version 2. I think version 2 can sometimes be a bit better, so I think there are still some bugs with version 3, but it gives you more options to control it. So this is version 2. Let's go with Flash. You don't need it to put multilingual. We'll generate the speech and take out the tags because they're.
Are you paying a monthly subscription for this service?
Yeah, I am. But when I finish making my audiobook, obviously I will cancel my subscription, or reduce my subscription, because you won't really, you make a project and then you don't necessarily really need it, which is the great thing I think about it. Yeah.
How do you feel about your voice as your IP?
Yeah.
You're essentially using your voice as training data, potentially. How does that make you feel?
Fine. I don't have an issue with it. I think that's the way that we're going, so I'm just embracing it.
Okay.
And I think they will find a way to use your training data anyway. They're probably recording your mics and stuff like that. So,
Isn't your
yeah.
Yeah, if you put it on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I'm on YouTube already. If you've ever been on someone else's podcast, then you've already been used for training data in Google's model. Yeah.
But I mean, I think his point is like if you're going to use it on the level now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you train the voice here, will it be publicly available, or it is just for you to use?
So you have a choice, I believe. So it's you can guys. Do you want to go and ask us if they've got more chairs for you guys? I think we've. Oh, yeah. Has everybody got a chair? Or is there enough? Yeah. If there's enough, it's fine. Yeah. If there's more, feel free to go and ask them to bring some more in. They will. Where were we? What were we talking about?
Why can't you save one of these voices out and then bring it back in to clone it? Wouldn't that be
I don't know whether the output would be good enough. Yeah. But let's listen to version 2. I actually think version 2 is a lot better. So somebody asked the question. I think that's where we were. So somebody asked the question. Okay, what does it look like in terms of other people being able to use it? I think you can keep it private if you want. I think if you want to, other people can pay to use it. So they can pay and they can rent your voice, and you can set some terms on it. A bit like when you rent other kinds of IP. So that kind of thing. Yeah.
Harry, have you released any audio product or anyone you know have done that yet?
I'm in the process of doing
Your
it.
employees are using ChatGPT wrong, and it's costing you thousands.
That's better.
They're asking write me an email instead
Yeah.
of thoughtful. Write a professional follow-up email to a client who's 30 days overdue. If maintaining our relationship while firmly requesting payment. The more specific your prompt, the better your output. Train your team on proper prompting and watch productivity actually increase.
That sounded like you, the first one, didn't it?
Yeah, I agree. So I think that sounds enough like me that people would have to use it. So I put it into my book. So to answer the next question, it will be out in perhaps a month or two when I've got around to finishing it and getting exactly how I want to. But I'm probably about halfway through actually creating it. I've casted it all, got all the characters, and I've done about 5 or 6 chapters so far. We're sort of tweaking it. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. There is one other thing that you can do with it, which I'm sort of excited to show you. Which I think if you came last week, you saw that I'd been As well as cloning my voice, I'd actually cloned myself in terms of video, and I was going to put out a YouTube short. We had a bit of a limitation that the sort of mouth movement was a little bit off, so I went away and did a little bit of research and found a more kind of synced up version, and I used this audio to go away and actually create a fully AI generated YouTube short. And that text was actually written by Claude, which looked at all my posts on YouTube, all my videos, and decided on the idea, and then I selected the one that I wanted, and then it wrote the script. And I've made it in CapCut. I'm just waiting to do the captions on it, so I will show you what the output is, and you guys can see. I'm going to put it out, I think, on Thursday. So we'll see how well it does, and whether YouTube actually picks up on whether it's AI, whether people pick up on whether it's AI. So let's.
So do you think it'll be higher production than if you'd done it all yourself?
I don't think so, but I think that the time. And so I guess that's what I'm trying to find, is like, if you had gone to a studio, if you think about the cost of the studio, the time it takes to record in the studio. If you're doing an interview, you've got to find someone to interview you or someone else's podcast to go on. You've got to actually get there to get that high level of quality. If you were recording it yourself, you've still got to find a microphone, you've got to make sure the quality is there. I guess what I'm looking for is something that's maybe like 95, 96% of the way there. And then if it's 95 or 96% of the way there, but it costs less in time and effort, you can even delegate it completely to someone else. I could hand this over to my assistant now and say, here's my 11 Labs clone, here's some footage of me on a video. Could you now put this together and make something for me? So, yeah. So this is the result. So this is what happened. That's a really really interesting question. I hadn't actually thought of that. So, could you send it to Manus maybe, or Operator, or one of the O3 models to do it for you? I suspect it would fall down. That's my thinking. I don't think it would be able to do all of the steps. Probably you would be more inclined to set up an N8N workflow. That's the question, isn't it? Could you get get Claude to scan your Claude to make it, then go into all the models and create the video, do the lip sync, put it all together, get 11 Labs. They all have APIs, so it's possible. I wonder what the result would be, and whether it could do the captions in the color scheme. So. Yeah, maybe I'll report back to Lucian, and we'll see. I think that's a really good question. So let's see this is the result of me doing it on my own, not automated, and let's see what it came up with.
Is this different from the last
week? It is. It's different from the last week because the lip sync and this one has fully it's full duration. It's about it's 18 seconds. It's got AI audio as well, so this is not my voice, this is a clone of my voice. I just haven't downloaded it and uploaded it to YouTube yet, so curious the premiere of my AI workflow to see what you guys think. So we've upgraded the lip sync a little bit from last week, so I think the lip sync is a little bit better. So here we go.
Your employees are using ChatGPT wrong and it's costing you thousands. They're asking, write me an email instead of write a professional follow-up email to a client who's 30 days overdue, maintaining our relationship while firmly requesting payment. The more specific your prompt, the better your output. Train your team on proper prompting and watch productivity actually increase.
So there you go. So a little bit of a lag there. It's a bit of a lag there, I think.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Question, is this what's it called? News?
Sorry?
CapCut's news? Like I think the advertising is called news, right?
Yeah, so this is not CapCut. I've just put it together in CapCut. This is the entire workflow is Kling 1.6 Master, which made a short piece of video, which I've recycled 2 times. So I've only spent like £1.40 or $1.40. I haven't made 3 different clips. If you wanted to make it better, you could use 3 different clips of you and take the end of it if you really wanted to be picky about it. But I wanted to try using it with 1 clip. Then what I've done is I've gone to 11 Labs. I've grabbed the audio from 11 Labs of me speaking. I put in the script that Claude made for me. So Claude made this script. And finally, I've used a lip sync model, Sync, I think it's called, and we put it all together in CapCut and edited it. Yeah, this is the end result. So you're curious what people think. I'm curious to hear what the filmmaker
I was
thinks.
gonna
Yeah.
ask, could you render it a clip so we can see it in real time with other
Yeah,
live?
it's so much different.
Yeah.
That was
I think it looks really, really good.
Yeah.
I just you don't know how to judge it based on pixel.
Yeah, so the long and short of it is I made this afternoon, and after let's take off the captions, and then I think we can download it. Delete these.
How long did it take you to get the voice to that level?
I went to a professional studio with soundproofing and a professional mic. In fact, I actually looked at what mic you needed and asked the studio, "Do you have this mic that 11 Lab recommends?" And recorded my voice for an hour.
Wait,
Yeah.
is there an AI trained in your voice at this point?
Yeah, there's an AI now trained on my voice.
How long did it take you to get it there?
An hour.
What?
So do they give you things you have to read and then?
Yeah, so you have to read continuously for an hour. So I went and read an extract of my book, All the Narrators Sounds, in a professional studio for an hour with the right mic. They give you the specifications about what mic you should be picking. They say 2 hours is ideal, but if you can speak for an hour, that's still good. And then half an hour is the minimum. So you need 30 minutes of you continuously speaking. So it can be whatever you want, and they can't have any silences or any pauses in it, or too big pauses. You need to keep doing it. So yeah, to answer your question, let's remove the captions because they're limiting how my ability to download it because I'm not on the pro version of CapCut.
Just end up with so many subscriptions lately.
That's why you like Foul AI, right?
Yes, yeah, that's why you use Foul AI because Foul gives you the options of obviously using paying once and then you can pick whatever one you want. Obviously, getting a clone with a voice clone with 11 Labs, that's pretty expensive, but I think it's worth it for what you could save on content. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, let's export it and download it and see what the quality is.
While that's downloading, can
Yeah.
I ask a question?
Sure. Yeah. What do you want to ask?
So
Yeah.
I just like a interesting use case
Yeah.
like for a client, like let's say they've got like a mascot or something, they want to make a voice for it,
Yeah.
and then they want to get on like a Twitter space and like talk through a microphone, and then the voice is coming out as the character. Do you reckon that's possible yet in real time?
It will depend on the limitations of X and whether X allows you to do that. So
you
it's,
would just plug in something like a mixer to go through, but like as long as you can get the voice in.
yeah, but X might have some restrictions on AI voices, deepfakes and stuff like that. So you need to be careful about that. They might be in a space they might be able to detect whether it's a voice or a voice clone. I'm not sure. I'm saying that my immediate thing would be some of the limitations to it. So,
And
yeah.
aside from X, is there anything like, let's say it's not going to X, like is there any way of doing that in real time?
Well, having a space with AI characters in it.
Like having an AI character that you can speak and then automatically the voice is coming out, like
A
as
sound filter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a TikTok filter, but for sound.
Why,
Yeah.
who are you going to catfish?
It's not for using that.
Hang on.
In real time, that's right.
But I think they want to
It's like a mixer.
That's not the use case, by the way.
Just have a 24/7 Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But I think this is really good. We use it like for our use case for our client. We're kind of like looking for French voice, and I think on N10, I think this is one of the best. And it's super natural. We tried with Vapi like 6 months ago, but it's more like Canadian speaking French.
Yeah. So is it? Yeah. It's important to guys. Do you want to just everybody speak at the front so we're not talking over each other? It's important to remember that how fast this technology moves on. So your assumptions about something. Why are you doing that? Your assumptions about what technology. Why is it saying I'm not here? That's weird.
Meetup's usually an hour.
Yeah, but I've got the corporate one, so you shouldn't be doing that.
It is funny when you hear someone say, "Oh no, AI
Yeah.
can't write,"
Yeah.
and then or
Yeah.
they can't do voiceovers, and they're like, well, "How long ago were you?"
Yeah, exactly.
They're
Yeah,
like,
sure.
A year
Yeah,
ago I tried
yeah.
it."
It's a point that's really well made, and technology moves on. people's understanding of the technology is based just on what they think they know. So if you speak to someone who all day long, all they're exposed to is content on LinkedIn with rocket emojis, they're going to tell you that AI can't write because they think that that's the limit of all that it can do. If you speak to someone, in this room, they're going to have a completely different opinion of whether AI can write or not. So that's important to remember, and it's the same with all of this. It's the same with voice. It's the same with video. And so I think Alex Hormozi did put out something similar like this week, or somebody. I think Chris, you said that he did. Did he say on X that he'd put out an AI-generated short, or did you just infer it from the?
No, I think it was. Was it? Did I send it to you on X or? Instagram?
You sent it on Instagram, and you sent comments where people were saying that it was AI-generated, but I think one of them said he'd said explicitly on X that he was going to do it or something.
Yeah, that's what the comment said.
Yeah.
It was like 90% there. Like if I had 5 drinks and then watched it, I'd probably be like, oh, this is real. It's super close to being like indistinguishable.
Yeah. So I wonder what workflow he's using and whether he. Yeah.
Well, I'm not like that.
Vappy has a new workflow system this week as well, where you can sort of assemble audio, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. So people are obviously coming on to 11 Labs. So we're going to go on to talk about Spotify in a few minutes, but one of the things that Spotify has actually released is Spotify have done a big push for audiobooks. If you're a premium subscriber to Spotify, you now get included a certain amount of listening hours per month for audiobooks, which I think is a really cool feature. And if you're an author like I am, they now allow anyone to upload their audiobooks, and if you include them in premium. So if you include them in the premium subscription, then you will still get paid for it. You still get royalties for it. So you'll be included and you'll be paid for them, which is a really cool business model. So often authors get a bad deal with the audiobooks. You don't get much say usually. I was quite lucky with my first novel that was published to a publishing house. I had a clause that said I could retain the audiobooks if they hadn't sold them within 9 months, and the publishing house never did. But if they had gone away and sold them, you get like a small royalty, and they would just never be, you would have no control over who they picked, over the conditions of the audiobook, and you might not even get the chance to record it yourself if that's what you wanted. And a lot of authors would often complain that sure they get a royalty check, but the quality of the audiobook would be really bad, it wouldn't get much marketing. And then, of course, since Audible came along, that obviously changed stuff, and now we have Spotify as well, sort of jumping on that bandwagon. So Spotify are really pushing in this direction. Audible won't actually let you do AI-generated audiobooks, I believe, or I think it's quite controlled the way that it works. Spotify have sort of opened the doors to that with a partnership from 11 Labs. So long as you use 11 Labs, you can actually upload it. Yep.
How do they know?
How do they know?
AI generated.
That's a very good question. I believe technologically you can know. I think you can. There's a way of looking at the sound waves or something. I believe.
Yeah. On Apple Books, there's some really crap audio books, right? Which are just terrible AI.
Yeah. But I do believe there's a marketplace if you do it well and you put a lot of effort into actually doing it well and creating characters and doing things beyond. I think there's 2 ways of looking at AI. I think there's one way of looking at it in terms of we can just take advantage of this gold mine and let's put out 1,000 books a day and not care about the quality of them and try and make a little bit of money from all of them. I think increasingly that mode of working is kind of dying because I think people are putting in place restrictions on them. You ultimately don't get the buy-in from the people. You can't build a brand if you do that. It's like, how can we automate things? And then I think there were other people using AI who are like, how do we make this better? How do we 10 times our workflow? How do we do stuff that we'd never be able to do before? And I think those are the people that are going to win in the AI race.
Why you want to read a book? Listen a book because it's very slow compared to the new technologies. I think it's going to be a strong favorite. What I mean is you can talk with AI about anything. So I think it's it's gonna go fast. Like the watches, right?
Yeah. Let's look at the downloaded clip and see whether it lives up to our expectations. Oh, so it looks like it's done it already.
Your employees are using ChatGPT wrong and it's costing you thousands. They're asking, write me an email instead of write a professional follow-up email to a client who's 30 days overdue, maintaining our relationship while firmly requesting payment. The more specific your prompt, the better your output. Train your team on proper prompting and watch productivity actually increase.
Wow.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
The script is great, but
yeah.
The script is
I mean,
great.
yeah, I didn't put that much effort into the script. I mean, I got Claude to put it in 5 seconds. You're right to call me out on that. I should have spent more time
But the rest
prompting
of
it.
it's awesome.
Yeah, but this was just
The sentences almost need to be shorter or something, because there was
Yeah.
one there where it was like a long, like, we're waiting for you to take a breath.
Yeah,
So it's
I
kinda-
agree.
You gotta write it a bit differently.
I agree with that. It's going to take some prompt. I mean, this was an exercise really to see can we put it all together and make something. And so,
Maybe that's what
yeah,
the end dash is for.
yeah.
None of that involved, like, you didn't actually recite any of that.
No.
That wasn't you on the.
No, I didn't.
But
So
it's done similar clips
let me just clarify this to explain about what this actually is. That's not my voice. That's not my video. I'm not actually moving, and that's not actually my text. That's actually been written by AI. So Claude decided on the topic. Claude wrote the script. 11 Labs did the audio of my voice. Kling 1.6 Master made the video of my lips moving, of the still image of me in the podcast studio, and then Lip Sync actually sunk my audio with my lips. And when you put all that together, that's what you get.
Is it a transcript of what you just said?
Yeah.
It's like amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't this like, it's good for something, but it could be used really in like really dangerous situations?
Sure.
Like you create like left wing, right
Yeah, so
wing.
let's listen to what you've got. So can we stop talking so we can hear what you've got to
Like
say?
you
Yeah.
can create like personas, like really dangerous
Yeah.
personas, like super dangerous personas using this.
You can do.
Like,
That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's my only concern.
Yeah. So let's.
Like your
I'm interested to see what happens when I upload this to YouTube on Thursday.
You get
Do-
like 1,000 views last time, right?
Sorry?
You got like 1,000 views last time you uploaded it, right?
Yeah, so I'm getting about 2,000 views from my shorts, on average. It depends. Obviously, some of them bomb and then some of them do well. So I'm curious to see what happens when I upload this. Is there a flag like you need to say this is AI?
When you're uploading, you have to choose whether it's AI or not.
I haven't seen that when I've uploaded it, so I'm interested. I wonder whether I haven't had that option on Instagram.
There's a
I
bunch
have.
of things saying,
Yeah.
has AI been used in any part of the,
Yeah.
and then there's 3 or 4 questions.
Yeah. So I will answer that honestly and put it obviously that I have, because they've got watermark technology in it. So to answer your question, which is like this could be used for nefarious purposes, which is what you're asking, right? Like, okay, the deep fakes, all this stuff. There is watermark technology embedded in it, and it mixes around or here from DeepMind. He'll be able to tell you that even his text-to-video model that they are making, actually, I think he said last week again that they plan to include that in it. And there's some kind of standard I think that Google had that they partially open source he was talking about. So what that means is it's not a watermark that you can see, but in the text of the code there is a certain watermark that that's it. So it's quite difficult to do that with consumer products. No doubt, if you wanted to do that, you could remove it, so we're moving in a direction where YouTube's probably going to flag that it's AI.
Have you tried messing around with pauses and like natural human things like saying and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, not yet. Maybe that's the way to go, to disguise it a little bit. Put some
Yeah, 'cause there was like a really long sentence.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
And I don't think a single human would be able to like talk that eloquently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing against you.
Sure. Yeah.
And on that, you could create like hand ticks as well. Like people have ticks, right, when they're talking. Like you were there just sat there like this. You might have a tick.
Sure. Yeah.
You add into the video.
Let's see what our filmmaker has to say about
I
this.
think the power of this comes where you add B-roll and you cut it up. Because I have a lot of people that I follow on Instagram that do a lot of news and informative posts like this, and I love regurgitating news from people when I see them. Because if I see them for the first hook, and then everything after that is just reiterating B-roll that helps enunciate what they're saying, visually, I don't really care if it's AI, because I'm getting the value that my attention's being traded for. So if I'm sitting down and my attention's being soaked up by AI, I'm now losing trust in the person that's creating it. Whereas if you just gave me the hook and then gave me B-roll and text, and that gives me value to your post, I would say good on him, because you're getting more value out. There's one guy in the film industry right now, his name's Patrick something, and he has this company called Share Films, and he puts up the greatest value posts for filmmakers, and no one else is competing with him. Like, he's the only person that's doing it. And I'm like, wow, why doesn't he make it AI? Because I only see it for like 0.3 seconds, and then everything else is B-roll. And I'm wondering now if it is B-roll, if it is AI.
Yeah.
So they don't really know anymore.
Yeah. So exactly, and you make a really good point. Like, if you put B-roll over this, would you? And we sorted out the long sentences. Would you even know? Would you even care? Like, and that's the cool thing, right? The next thing So the next thing that I want to do. So let's try and all talk one at a time, just so we're not talking over each other. Bene, do you want to go? Yeah.
Sorry, did you say B-roll?
B-roll.
B-roll, yes.
Like
Sorry.
additional video footage
Yeah.
to kind of compensate for just watching him on screen
Yeah.
at all times. Because if we're watching him and thinking that this is a podcast, we're acknowledging that it's not real anymore. We can tell that it's AI at some point in time because the blips aren't syncing or whatever the case is. But if at the moment your attention is broken with visual footage that gives you something else to look at, now you're distracted by thinking, is the person real? Because the footage that I'm looking at can be generated from all these other AI things that can encompass what he's talking about. And would just reiterate strengths and values.
So for example, when I'm saying, your ChatGPT prompt, instead of you seeing the video of me speaking that, it would be a video of me like typing, and you would see ChatGPT over the top, and then we'd cut back to my video. I agree. I think that takes a little bit of extra work than this, but I think that's the next step. Maybe you get some B-roll into it. But one of the cool things about this now is I can hand this over to my assistant or to NAN or to however, and I can have zero involvement in like content creation of myself.
What I was going to ask is, I mean, like, assuming your goal isn't to make Lawrence of Arabia or something, is it possible, in your experience with your audiobook, is the output higher quality than if you'd had to do it? Is it diction better? Is it easier to understand?
From what I've heard so far, I would say yes, because I was in the studio today recording this voice clone, and I was umming and erring, having to retake things 3 times when I was reading the line. You don't get that with AI, and it can pick up on where you say something really good. So when there's something really emotive, and I'm like, wow, I'm happy that I got that line really emotive. It can take that emotion and it can implant it somewhere else. So far from what I've heard, I think it does a better job than if I was sat in a studio actually recording it myself, and certainly, obviously, less time.
Why has it got a different version from 2 to 3 then, of your voice?
Sorry?
When you checked into 11 Labs on version 3, it's something different to the version 2.
Yeah.
Why is that different?
I think that's because version 3 is an alpha, and they've sort of messed around with it, and I wonder whether it's as good as it could be, or whether they're going to take it.
It's not released, right?
It's released, but it's an alpha, so it's like this is a very early demo. It's not in the studio mode, so you can make short pieces of text with it, like we just showed, but you can't bring it into the studio. The studio is where you can make like 6-hour audio books, and you've got the tools, and you can say, I want this character and that character, and like this. So it's a good question, and it perhaps goes to the point of the tags that you showed. Yeah.
Have you played around with, or I don't even know if it's out, Sesame AI? Have you heard of it?
Sesame AI? No, I've not heard of it.
It is absolutely.
Yeah, please, post it in the group and send it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hux is also very interesting. HUXE. It's like Notebook LM, but it's a personalized podcast for you each day based upon your news.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
So,
what is it? HUXE?
Yeah, it's free as well. It's super cool.
Great.
And you can just skip on to the next news and it thinks of topics for you.
Please, get Jesse to hear your opinion from a filmmaking perspective. Yeah.
It's kind of like almost opposite to his, because I'm, like I said, I'm trying to make like a digital double kind of thing, similar to what you're doing. So I want, two parts. One, I want you to use Skyreels audio. You can get rid of all those jumps completely, and the lip syncing is almost perfect because it's using the same thing as Hedra. I don't know if you're familiar with
So this
that.
is Skyreels audio, right?
Skyreels,
Okay, cool. You wrote this
and
down.
the second one is automation is definitely possible. Are you using this so that it's creating 11 Labs and you give them the audio? Or is it just that you have a pre-recorded Notion from here, from what you recorded in your studio, and you just put that and chuck it over.
So I went to the studio, recorded my voice and cloned it, and now it's available as a clone on 11 Labs. And so I did that today, and this is something that I made in about 45 minutes. So
Okay.
yeah.
So you make Claude give you the script, and then you take that script into Eleven Labs.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So I was really testing the video and the visuals as well as the audio to see could we put it all together and make something that looked like decent, right? That looks like, okay, I could actually put this out on my channel and I'd be like, okay, let's see how well it does, right? And could we so I guess fool people, fool's the wrong word, you know, does this actually work? Now I've got to this part, probably the next thing I'm going to do is how do we refine it? How do we take the pauses out? How do we put B-roll over it? How do we really take it to the next level?
I'm excited to see you use
Would you have an issue with kind of creating a digital version of yourself and publicly displaying that? Like saying this is you 2.0, the AI version that just is more efficient, but still gives the same value that you provide?
Well, I mean, I think it depends in what context, right? I mean, these are small clips, so you can have a certain amount of control over them and over the messaging and things like that. Would I be comfortable with it? I mean, it depends on the context. It depends on like where it's being shown to whom. I wouldn't necessarily be comfortable with it just being let loose to say, whatever. But in certain situations, I could see that would be helpful. I could see it would be helpful maybe to have a digital twin of like these meetings. I could see building out a RAG system with all of the transcripts of these meetings in, and then building a clone so that when people ask the question with AI on top of it, you'd sort of get a kind of my advice. I could see something like that having a useful for it for a particular kind of audience. I don't think having a fully AI digital twin that you can't have that oversight on.
I'm looking at it from the perspective of language barriers.
Yeah.
Because Indonesians, for example, we're in Bali, and there's so much people that we could be giving value to, but they don't understand English. So it's like, imagine we would have these conversations and then just take it from English and turn it into Indo. That in itself is crazy value that we could not learn right away.
That is a really good point. I could have a channel that was like Harry Verity AI in Indonesian. The problem that I would have with that is I would probably need to. I have no judgment over the quality of that because I don't know Indonesian. I know enough Vietnamese because I lived in Vietnam for 2 years to do something like that in Vietnam, and I have enough friends who speak Vietnamese who also speak fluent English and live in the Western world, who to be able to judge that for myself and with them, where that would be valuable. But yeah, I'd have to find a sort of trusted Indonesian who spoke fluent Indonesian and fluent English.
You know how with an image on maybe ChatGPT you might regenerate it a few times because you're not happy with the first one and the second one, cool, it's nearly right. With the audio, do you have to regenerate it, or is it just sort of one shot and that's all you got?
No, you can regenerate it as many times as you want. It costs you credits, so you get a certain amount of credits every month. So far, like I didn't need to regenerate any of those. That was like one shot. And I think the only adjustments that I would make would be to the script itself. There were too many words at once, and I would probably, as you say, like put some more full stops in there. Be more aware of the limitations of the model. Remember, these are 8-second clips as well. 8 seconds is really the limit of what you can do with the lip syncing so far. We're not technologically at a point where we can do more than 8 seconds. So you have to chunk it up into 8 seconds and then add them all together. So yeah.
Would you share your process somewhere for making this?
I mean, I've shared as much as I can today. I mean, we talked about
like as far as the tools that you use, the
Yeah.
11 Labs for the voice.
Yeah.
And the video is what?
It's Kling 1.2.
On
Found.
Yep.
Yeah. And Kling, Kling.
On foul.
Yep.
Okay.
And then the lip syncing model as well. So,
Fal is FAL.ai.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. I'm recording this as well. I am gonna put it on YouTube as an after thing. I've already have my designer make a thumbnail for it. So if you missed any of this, it will be on YouTube as a record with the audio. So
did you generate the thumbnail with AI?
I didn't know. I actually got the designer to make it. We should do, but we don't. They have access to FAL to be able to make it. They've got a LoRa trained image of me, so if they need an image of me looking shocked or something, then she could create that. But she knocks them out in like 15 minutes when she's got the template of them, so don't really need to go that far, but yeah.
So on the translation point, and stop me if this is what you're probably next one, I saw a few months ago Spotify did a demo where they were like translating podcasts like Diary of a CEO and Joe Rogan into other languages, so it was like Stephen Bartlett's voice but in Spanish or like German, so I guess it's a similar.
Yeah, we're definitely getting there. The Captions app, do you know the Captions app? Is anyone a content creator? Yeah. Right, so that's had that in for a while where it would literally dub over your voice in another language. So if you subscribe to that, you could put in your shorts and then have you speak in Spanish or Russian.
AGen as well.
AGen, yeah. A lot of services offer this, so if you wanted to set up a channel in another language, it'd be a guru in Spanish.
And Google showed that live translation, like Star Trek, last week, so 2 weeks ago.
They said they added that to their app a couple days ago.
Anyway, let's move on to some other topics. I'm glad that everyone's so enthusiastic about this. I do think it's really cool. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Spotify and also some upgrades to Claude as well that I think everyone will find exciting. Go on then, Nick. One last question.
One thing you covered. Okay, so what's this 8-second limitation? You could write out a whole script and give it instructions, but you just have to divide it into 8 seconds.
Yeah. The lip sync model.
The video is the limitation of 8 seconds.
Yes.
The audio you can do hours.
But then you can just concatenate.
Well, there's two the video. So there's two limitations to it. You can make a 10-second video on Kling. The limitation with video is something called back propagation through time. I wish Mix was here to help us explain this in a bit more detail. Back propagation through time basically means you think about the number of frames that are in a single second of image. There's like 30 of them, and then you say you want 10 of those. You've now got 300 images. All of those images all have to be in alignment with the original image. So if you think about the amount of technology that goes into creating that one image with diffusion technology or with GAN, and then you have to make all 30 of them to be completely in alignment with each other, it's a huge feat to get right. And the further it goes away from each other, the exponentially more complicated it is, and the exponentially more complicated it becomes. So we really, I think 60 seconds is the absolute limit, is what I've heard. I think Mixed model is going to be 60 seconds, which is incredible and impressive. But going beyond that is technically challenging. And as Mix rightly says, where would you need a frame longer than 60 seconds anyway? Most frames
Even
in movies.
long movies, there's very few scenes that are longer than 1 minute.
So it's creating something.
When you really look at the chops that happen.
Andrew, do you want
you have to chop this into 4 pieces. You can do it from the original frame, or you have to have the beginning shot of each 4 pieces different.
It's funny you guys haven't noticed. This is the same piece of video you've been playing 3 times in a row, just with different lip movements.
There is one little point where it skips in this.
Yeah.
That's where the B-roll comes in.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all kinds of editing tricks to disguise it. I mean, anyone that's been in content creation for a while knows that you've had the ability to like remove ums and ers, do jump cuts just by deleting the words in the transcript of the model. So we're kind of more used to jump cuts and kind of obscure things. It doesn't necessarily have to be as linear as it was before. So, yeah. Let's move on and go through the rest of the agenda because there's still some really cool stuff to show you. Yeah. But I'm glad I've blown some people's minds. Can you mute your mic, whoever has just joined the chat? Can you mute your mic? Hello. Okay, he's muted. We're good. All right. Hi, sure. So, I wanted to talk about my favourite thing in the whole world, MCP servers. Yeah. So, yeah. The model context protocol, which is, of course, what is the model context protocol? Does someone want to answer for me? Is the ability to connect tools with AI. That's all it is in a nutshell. So increasingly we're seeing like native integrations where you can literally just press a button and connect with it. But there's also a whole bunch of other tools that still require essentially you to kind of hardwire and code them in. So one of the things you can do and that is available is you can make an MCP server for Spotify, and I did that over the weekend. My weekends are usually spent either writing or just tinkering and messing around with AI stuff, building MCP servers. So one of the cool things have I just closed the? I think I've just accidentally closed the Google Meet. Oh dear. I'm not being very smart today. So one of the things that MCP service with Spotify allows you to do is to it makes Spotify more discoverable. So what do I mean by that? If you think about Spotify at the moment, it just has a standard search in it. So you can just search for something, you can look at playlists, and the UX is not really that great. It's quite difficult to actually find things on YouTube. On Spotify. So what an MCP server does is it allows you to basically say, I want to find me a playlist, go away and find me some music. So I want some classical music, I'm feeling in this mood. Can you go away and find me the playlist? And it will go away and it will find the playlist for you, and then it will actually it will build it for you. So it will build you a playlist. It will give you the title of whatever you want, and you can do some really cool things with it. So let's have a demo of it, of how it works. And so one of the cool things as well is that you can attach a project to it. So with any MCP server, you can basically attach a project to it. So if I, for instance, have the files in my novel, and I have them all in, let's Stephen. If I have them all in my, losing track of the amount of windows that I have open. Let's change the settings so that anyone can get in. I can go away and build me a playlist based on like a character in my book or based on what it says, and it has the entire manuscript, so it can really look at the characters and the emotions, and it can then go away and do that. This shouldn't be happening. Let's have an example of it and how it works. So if we say, create me a Spotify playlist with some pieces of music for an AI meetup in Bali with some filmmakers, a YouTuber, and a news publisher, and many other great people. Okay, so we'll press enter.
Generating music, it's just generating.
It's just finding it. It's generating the playlist for you, so it's finding
it.
Yeah.
Like free that you can use.
Yeah, so it will find this for you in Spotify. So it will build it for you and it will save it for you in Spotify. So if you are struggling and you're like, wow, I don't know what piece of music to listen to, as you can see, it's making it now for you. It's going away and creating the playlist. And this is a little bit of a bug with it, which is there's an authentication with Spotify, so I need to re-authenticate this. So give me 1 minute.
While you're doing that, sorry.
Yeah.
So you're in Claude here, right?
Yes.
So when you're talking about this MCP,
Yeah.
you're saying that Spotify has just created an MCP and now that Claude can speak to it? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
so it's not Spotify that's made it, it's actually a third party, somebody who's made it, and I'm going to demonstrate in a minute how I've actually edited this MCP server. I've added on top of it. Other people post those servers on GitHub, which is where you post your code, and then people can just clone them and use them yourself.
So is that a product in itself that people are making, these MCPs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're just releasing them to the public. Yeah, so you don't need to wait for anyone else. Yeah, Chris.
But Spotify provides like an API key for the MCP server to get access to that information.
Yeah. So I have to register with Spotify. That's what we're doing right now. I'm authenticating because it needs you need to make a dev account, get your API key, and then set it up. So I mean that it's easier to do it that way. And I will tell you a story in a moment about how some apps are actually trying to fight back against the MCP servers, and an experience that I had or that I saw. So But you don't necessarily need an API key to do it, and you certainly don't need the permission of the company to be able to go and make these things. Yeah.
That last part you said, how does that work? Because wouldn't it need to be the data and the operation need to be exposed by the company, Spotify in this instance, through an API?
You could get there is a way of building them with if you know the structure of the database, basically. So you can technically build it without an API, I believe. Yeah,
But
it's
how
not.
do you get access to the database? Wouldn't it be highly secure?
If you know the structure of it, so you don't necessarily need to know what's in it. I think if you just know the general structure of it, you can potentially build one. If you're a user of it. So I was contemplating building one for a piece of software that I use, and I was inquiring about this, and it said you'd need to basically map out the file structure of the program on your app to try and establish where the database is to get access to it. Yeah.
Remember, it has to be on the local version of Claude. So it has to be the app that exists on your machine. You're not really connecting, or you might be connecting to the app on your local machine and looking for a database somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the bugs with this that admittedly I haven't figured out is that every time you restart Claude, you need to re-authenticate this and go through the authentication process, which means writing a small piece of code, which is what I'm doing now. So if I say need to re-auth, it will write me a small piece of code that you put into terminal, which starts the approval process, and you just need to press approve, and it will let you back into the server. So I haven't quite found a way to overcome that. So I may need to sit down with a dev or someone who builds MCP servers and try to figure that out. But I have actually added to this. So while this is doing this to demonstrate this MCP server only had the ability to find music, and the podcast stuff was actually separate. You needed a different type of basically calling ability to do that. So I went away and built that, so that now, as well as being able to find music, it can actually build playlists of podcasts as well. Now, why is that important? Podcasts are not discoverable. They're very difficult to find. You kind of have to know about them. So the fact that you can now go on Spotify and say, okay, I've got all this knowledge that I put in a project, find me some podcasts that are related to this topic or this knowledge, and it can go away and it can search for specific episodes and put them in a playlist for you. That's the power of it, by adding that to it. So once I've figured out this bug, I'm actually going to give this away to the world. So this will be my first MCP server that I've built on GitHub.
So say if someone was wanting to monitor their brand on podcasts on Spotify, could you use the system to maybe have a look around Spotify podcasts for your brand and look for mentions of it?
I don't think at the moment it can do transcripts. There's another app that does do that, where you can search across a whole bunch of different podcasts. It's actually built by somebody here at BWork. It's called Rephonic. I highly recommend it. Built by my dad, James Potter. He all the local Balinese call me Harry Potter for some reason. So he has built this really good search functionality for podcasts. So if you're doing podcast outreach, it gives you all the contacts of the podcast. It lets you search by episodes, by the transcript of each podcast. It's really quite impressive. I would say that this at the moment doesn't have access to the transcripts. It just has the ability to access Spotify, to search for episodes, and then to build playlists for them.
Sorry, what was it called?
Rephonic. So yeah, you can tell when you sign up to it and it says, "How did you find out about this?" You can say through Harry Verity, through the AI founders meeting. But he's a very smart guy, the guy who built it, and I highly recommend this. We've used it for outreach. Actually, I've got my assistant to get me on some podcasts. So Rephonic is the way that you would go about doing that. You wouldn't use an MCP at the moment to do that, as far as I'm aware. So we'll just wait for this to load so you can see it. But so here we go. This is the page that it comes up to. Harry's Claude MCP Spotify integration. Do you agree? So what we want to do is to avoid having to obviously do this every single time and have to open terminal to run some code. But once it's done that, you can see authentication successful. When we've done a callback, we can say let's go back to this chat, and we can ask Claude to retry, and we could see what pieces of music it builds for this meetup. Is now re-authed. Spelled wrong. So now it's creating the playlist. It's searching Spotify for some music.
In fact, now we could have millions of AIs working for any one of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what is cool about this, I think, is that you don't need a fancy automation. You don't need a fancy automation to make this work. I mean, you can just literally do this straight from ChatGPT or Claude. So.
It's like a million interns, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
3 months, 6, 1 year.
I understand.
And 1 million or 10 million. I think the shocking thing about today is like I realized the speed of humans with humans, humans with machines, humans with AIs, and this is going ballistic. And I think we have to open our minds to a different way of thinking.
I mean, my question is, did you try it before this presentation? And
Yeah, I've tried it before, it's worked.
How was the playlist? I mean, was it something what you were looking for?
Yeah, it was good. I said, here is some. I wanted some classical music, so I went away and found some classical relaxing music, and it added to the playlist. It went and it found all the playlists that I currently have, and I said, can you just add some more songs that I like this? And it went away and it looked at them and added to them. So I mean, that's really cool, right? You couldn't, yeah. And so somebody in the group posted this week about Spotify's lack of AI features. I would suspect at some point Spotify's probably going to have this, but you know, right now you can do this directly from.
I mean, one use case maybe like I have like, the music in mind, but I don't remember the name of the music.
Yeah.
And I just have been like some parts of the lyrics, like about this. And could you do that?
So what you would have to do that is you would have to go away and search the web to find out what the title of the song was. So probably do a search of those lyrics to find out where they've been mentioned on the web, find the name of the song, and then go to MCP server. That's probably how you would do it. I don't think that the MCP has the ability to look at the individual lyrics of each song. I might be wrong, but maybe you'd have to build that functionality into it. Yeah.
Another coder, so the piece of code that you got from Claude, where did you put it to create the MCP?
Sure, that's a good question. So they're not quite as complicated to make as you would think they would be. In essence, the workflow is you would clone the MCP server from GitHub. So you clone it or fork it using terminal, and you would set that up. Perhaps there's some libraries and some permissions that you need, so you could run those, and then you change what's called the config file in your Claude. So if you press here and you say Claude settings, I believe, so we'll check that in a minute. You've got this thing here, developer, and then you edit the config file, and this is actually quite a simple piece of JSON. It's not a complicated code, so I would say don't be intimidated by this. And you simply edit this and you add, it's literally like a couple of lines. It's so simple. I've opened this in the wrong file. But if we open this in text edit, text editor, so you don't even need VS Code or Claude. You can literally just go in here and then you just change it with your API key with the ones that you want, and then boom, you're ready to go. So it's really quite simple. It's just MCP servers and then directory, and that's pretty much the essence of it, really. So
there's a lot of YouTube videos on how to set up an MCP server.
Absolutely, yeah. If you're lucky, I might do a YouTube video demo for you guys.
But right now, I can't do anything smarter than you can do in just the Spotify app on its own, searching for something.
Yeah.
But I guess it could search Spotify and it could search the web and it could do lots of other things through MCP.
If you got the Rephonic, which does have an API, you have to get them. They have to max out their sub, the top sub. You could make an MCP server for Rephonic, and then you could have the functionality within Claude. Yeah, you could do that, and you'd be able to do all the things that you were asking for. So you could combine that with Spotify, I suppose. You combine the two tools. You give it a workflow. You'd say, okay, first search the web, then search Rephonic and look through all the transcripts, and then from there build me out a playlist of these podcasts in Spotify. Shall we take a look at what Spotify has built for us on the AI Founders playlist? What piece of music has it said we should be having for us? It's made 11 tracks, so I've had it make 50 tracks for me before, and it's not had an issue, which is pretty cool. I'm noticing Claude is able to do more and more stuff since it's been upgraded to 4. This is not helpful. This playlist is not available. I think everything is just running a bit slow today.
Harry,
Yeah.
Is the reason that you're using Claude that it's got more integrations with these MCPs?
At the moment, yes. OpenAI is committed to actually having MCP service as well. But Claude seems to be Claude has had this for a while, and it was Anthropic's plan. They've had this since November, and ChatGPT is just catching up. It's only really in the last, I think, month and a half or so that ChatGPT came out and said, actually, we're going to actually integrate this instead. We're not going to make a competing protocol. We're going to just adopt this as well, which is pretty cool.
You've got hooked up to your Notion too, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I may have a bad news for you, Ari. OpenAI just they managed to have a partnership with HubSpot, and by kind of connect ChatGPT directly with HubSpot.
Yeah, with a deep they can use the deep research to do that. So let's see.
Are you saying that OpenAI will make direct deals with all these people instead of having an MCP service?
I think OpenAI might try that option instead of going with MCP. That's just my idea, but I don't.
Yeah. So here we go. Here's the AI Meetup Bali Vibes playlist. Isn't it nice when things actually work and go to plan? Yeah. So we've got some technological radio edits, some Chiara by Bombo, some Strobe, One More Time, Teardrop remastered, Little Fluffy Clouds, Levels by Avicii, Safe From Harm by Massive Attack, Born Slippy, Computer Love, and Divine Moment of Truth. So there we go. That's what AI says that we should be listening to. Yeah.
Strobe is mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done.
Could you play one of these music so kind of see if it's really what you are.
Yeah. We can play a bit of the track if you want. Should we play some Levels by Avicii?
Go on.
Just a tiny little bit, just 30 seconds.
Oh, I quite like this.
MCP. Share it, yeah. And when you guys have made your own MCP Spotify service, you can add to it. Yeah, we'll have like 100 tracks or something. Yeah.
There is heaps of AI features within Spotify, like the DJ is pretty good now, and it will play your own tunes, and now you can go back and forth with the DJ and negotiate on tunes. That's only a recent thing.
Yeah, and also remember there's a whole other thing we haven't talked about, which is kind of the elephant in the room, which is AI generated music, which is Suno and Udio. I think they're currently up to their neck in lawsuits, so they haven't necessarily been innovating in as much as they would like to be, but they're still there, and they've got editors. I think Suno has an editor in it now. So all of that, again, Spotify's now in a way competing against AI generated music, and maybe Spotify will have their own ability to generate music as well. So
that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But aren't you already inserting fake, AI generated music into their playlists so they have to pay? I thought that's one of the things they were doing. They were inserting fake songs that they've already created into playlists so that they don't have to pay the fee to
So,
musicians.
yeah, I don't know about that, but it would not surprise me if that's
all
what they
we've
were doing.
heard is actually happening at the moment. They've just
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, yeah. Nick, did you want to say something?
I don't know how much time we have, but I want to go with the one mind-blowing conclusion I had to make sure it's actually true. So I could go with some kind of producer or director and do high-quality voice and high-quality video for a day, and then for the rest of my life I'll never have to write another quarterly report, read another quarterly report. Like, and I could do it for Buckingham Palace or wherever I want. Like,
What do you mean quarterly report?
like, if it, like, because I have to put out quarterly reports, right? And I do like a little video with them, but I don't actually have to personally. I can just edit the text and Nick Android.
Insofar as your shareholders don't find out, Nick.
Right now, you could do a podcast version of that. So good.
Yeah.
The script could be written. It could be an hour-long audio, but the video is the limitation.
The video, we're so close to getting it right.
Concatenated in pieces, right?
Sorry?
Yeah. Well, all you're saying all you have to do is concatenate it and it will work,
Yeah.
right?
You saw the output tonight. That's where we're at. You know, maybe next week I'll come back and I'll be like, oh, I put some B-roll over, or I slightly tweaked the wording of it. But that's essentially where we're at in terms of the video. I would say we are like 95, 96% of the way there. That's that 3% to close the gap, to make it entirely realistic, and that's what everybody's racing to do right now. I think Kling Master 1.6 was huge. I think it's been massively understated. I think it's been far more understated than VO3. I think VO3 is cool, but you can't do any of the voices with it. You can't customize the voices, and you can't do consistent characters with it, and you can't yet do image to video. That's coming, but I think that's got the hype. But I think Kling is the real winner here. Yeah.
Am I allowed another question?
Sure, yeah, let's one more and then we'll go on to another news story before we wrap up. Yeah, two more stories, yeah.
So do you have any sort of like back-to-back study with unpolished organic production versus like you said, an audiobook you put together completely generative?
Yeah, I don't have a study, I just have what I've managed to produce with AI.
Which landed better?
Well, that's what we're going to find out. We're going to find out this week when I post that clip to YouTube, and we're going to see. I mean, that's one way of measuring it, right? Which is how many views does it get. So.
Reputational risk, though, you could be totally embarrassed and attacked by lots of people for producing routine content.
Yeah.
Well, not pretend. You curate it. You just.
I get it, but there are people that have put it out, like Alex Hormozy this week, that got attacked, and nobody even knows if the content was actually AI generated.
Yeah.
But he's still got ruthless.
I have friends with channels who definitely aren't doing AI generated content, and all the comments are like, oh, this is AI, and they're getting annoyed by it. So, I mean, people are going to accuse you either way.
Maybe brackets AI content.
Good call.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens when it puts out. I'm willing to risk putting out one piece of content just for views, and seeing as I've got an AI channel, I think it's fine, right? I think if people come back to me, I'm going to be like, yeah, it was did you notice, right? Of course, I'm an AI consultant. Of course, I'm going to be doing this. Why would I not be doing this? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to two more stories. This one I think everybody will find useful and very important, which is that Will Mulholland was just like so excited by this. If you guys know Will Mulholland, he's been part of the community for quite a while and very, very knowledgeable in Claude. He loves Claude, and they've actually 10 times the amount of files you can add to your project knowledge. Yeah, and the way that they've 10 times them is that they've introduced basically a self-done-for-you RAG system. So when you add, I actually looked this up, when you add stuff to your project knowledge, that's not RAG, that was just adding it to the context window. So the context window stays at 200,000 for Claude. So remember, the context window is basically the amount of files you can add to the chat. It's about 500 pages before it just expires and says you can't do anymore. And when you have build a project on Claude Pro, it goes up by percentages. Now, if you reach that 100%, it will let you add more files than that, because it's doing RAG, which is a retrieval augmented generation. So it's chunking it up, and it's contextual retrieval generation as well. So it's really fascinating that they've done that, because obviously the biggest limitation of it was the amount of files you could put into your project. So if I, for instance, I've been working recently on the sequel to the first book, the one that I'm creating the audiobook of, and of course that presents a challenge because I wanted to have access to everything that happens in the first book so it can make sure there's continuity between the first book and the second book, and it's very difficult to put both of them in one project at the same time. Now I can do that. And they've gone down a different route to the route that Google is doing, which Google has extended their context window, I think, to 1 million, and I think their plan is to go to 2 million in terms of the context window. So rather than expand their context window, they've simply implemented RAG as a more sort of cost-efficient way of doing it. But in essence, it does mean you can add more files to the project knowledge. And there is an exception to that, which is that if you have an enterprise plan with Claude 3.7 Sonnet, you can get a 500k context window rather than 200k. So they've more than doubled it. But only if you have their absolute enterprise max plan, and only on 3.7 Sonnet, not on the latest 4 models.
Would that have to do with the memory as well, the context window?
They're separate things. So the memory is like holistic. It's across all of your chats. It's like remembering stuff. So we have memory, context window, and RAG, retrieval augmented generation.
But when your memory grows so big, at certain point you don't like some kind of RAG because to retrieve it you have to like it will not fit into the context window.
And Google put out a paper called Infinite Context Window, which we covered here a few weeks ago, about what that meant, which is essentially looking at the relationships between all the tokens and then summarizing that relationship as it goes on. So one of the limitations on it, I'm so that Alan isn't here to help me explain this, but as I understand it, the relationships between all the tokens gets exponentially bigger as you add more files to the window, because they have to all relate to each other, and so they don't have to just relate to itself; they have to relate to each other. So the more you add to it, though, those new additional tokens that you add to it, the relationship between all the weights basically has to be fed back. So what this infinite context window proposed was that those relationships would be summarized in a sort of live, updated file as they go on and on and on. I'm not necessarily convinced that's going to be.
I think the issues like the relevance, like if you try to wait at the context window, you can lose some information along the way. So try to balance that. I mean that's really a big change.
Are there any developers in the room who sort of want to comment on RAG and context window?
I think the context window is, even though Google says you have a whole million, the further away, like the longer the context window, the worse it performs. So technically they say their models can go to 10 million, but they only release 1 million contexts. That 1 million stops being as effective as if you're using the first 100,000 of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's Claude's secret.
Yeah. Do you think that? I wonder whether they are doing that infinite context window thing, where they're just summarizing the tokens, and so then you're getting like a gist of it. You're not getting the exact mapping of all the tokens.
But I think that would be on the chip level, because right now our compute power. We want to make it available to the public. Our current compute power is not, capable enough to do that. So I think it will still take a little time before we infinite context.
So
for me, I just think you can avoid RAG most of the time, because most of us don't have big enough sort of database or something like that to have all that RAG need. You can fit most of it in the context window.
And I've also started using Notion as a database, and when you have it connected with the MCP, you can go in there and fish out. You can ask it to search for what you want, and then bring that out into your feed as well. So I see that as the future of it as well.
But the most common use case of RAG I see is in a customer service situation where you want it to answer a chatbot question, and then it goes away into a knowledge base and finds the related knowledge bases and brings them back as part of the response.
I just wanted to add something too, just something that you might find useful, something that I've been playing around with in terms of the context window and instructions. I've been saying, and I don't know if anyone's doing this or if I've just kind of found something cool, but I've been setting up triggers. So if I get a cool prompt, if I'm writing content or something like that, and I've got a cool prompt for setting up a phase or a next piece or a flow of a workflow, I've been setting up triggers and using special phrases. So instead of having to type it in, I can say like, stand by to log, and then it gives me the flow, and then I go engage phase 1, and then it does the next phase. So instead of prompting all the time, I'm like setting up the triggers in the context window. So I just say the one keyword, and then it flows on to the next piece. It's way quicker.
It's way better.
I use Text Expander like that, where you can just have a short thing and fill out a big prompt that you've saved, and you can have hundreds of your prompts ready. And you can also have a shared amongst the whole team, so everyone's using the same prompts across the
But if
business.
they're in the instructions, you don't need to copy and paste them. You just say the keyword, and then it already has the prompt. Yeah.
All right, okay. So one last.
I was like approached by someone last time, and she said like she was like trying to start a business as content creator, and I was looking around like, is it possible to like, because you've talked about Level Up, and if she tries to sell her voice on Level Up, I mean, is it possible to make good money?
I don't know whether good money, but I believe so that you can make money from people renting them. So yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So yeah, just some things to wrap up is that Apple had their WWDC conference yesterday. We will cover it next week. There wasn't enough time for us to go over it. I didn't see anything particularly eye-popping from it, other than the fact that Apple have kind of released it. Apple did put out a paper that I wanted to just briefly draw your attention to, which has been doing the rounds on social media, and to go into it a little bit, which is about reasoning. So Apple pushing back on reasoning models. So this is the paper. Let's load it up. It's called The Illusion of Thinking. So if anyone has been paying attention, you'll know that of course LLMs don't think, they're merely just predicting the next token, but if you've been spending too much time on social media or reading the newspapers, you'll obviously think that there are sentient robots coming to get us any minute. They're just getting smarter and smarter and smarter. They're not, don't worry. So the illusion of thinking, understanding the strengths and limitations of reasoning models via the length of problem complexity. So what they've done is they've taken a whole new approach to figuring out how good the reasoning models are at solving problems. So rather than looking at benchmarks, which, as we've talked about a lot, are often problematic, often the tests that are done to reach those benchmarks are done in highly cultivated environments, and they're just becoming like an exercise in PR. They picked 5 games, and what's also interesting as well is that Apple doesn't have that much skin in the game. Okay, they have a partnership with ChatGPT, but they're not building their own LLM. So they've picked 5 games, and then they've sort of seen how well they've done. The Tower of Hanoi, Checker Jumping, River Crossing, Blocks World, 4 games. And they've tested them, and essentially the conclusions of this paper were reasoning models did actually really well at medium level games, but any that are high complexity, they both seem to fail at miserably. Reasoning models tend to fail at low complexity games, but the normal models seem to be doing okay at the low level games. And so non-thinking models excel in simple problems, thinking models show advantages at medium complexity, while both approaches fail at high complexity regardless of compute allocation. So this is a really interesting paper. It says we're maybe not necessarily as far advanced as we thought we are, and that for all the chatter of how these reasoning models can code all night and do really cool stuff, we're not actually as far along as perhaps we think when we look at practical applications. So yeah, it's an interesting paper, and people of course have their thoughts on it. And so conclusion in this paper, we systematically examine frontier large reasoning models. So this is things like O3, Claude, 3.7, Sonnet, I guess, with reasoning. Through the lens of problem complexity using controllable puzzle environments, our findings reveal fundamental limitations in current models. Despite sophisticated self-reflection mechanisms, these models fail to develop generalizable reasoning capabilities beyond certain complexity thresholds. We identified 3 distinct reasoning regimes. Standard LLMs outperform LRMs at low complexity. LRMs excel at moderate complexity and both collapse at high complexity. So in essence, what they're saying, in sort of high-polluting academic language, is that the models are not as good at doing complex problems as perhaps people think that they are.
Are these good at recognizing solutions that were already published for the complex problem? Is that what's going on? Because in its language research, it probably saw the Tower of Hanoi somewhere, right?
So they can perform up to 100 correct moves in the Tower of Hanoi, but fail to provide more than 5 correct moves in the river crossing puzzle. So these games go up in their complexity and the reasoning that's needed. So the lower complexity games like the Tower of Hanoi is kind of easy for them to miss, but the more complex ones where perhaps there's not an answer, you can just Google and find it out, then it's not there. So, yeah.
I think in this paper they basically told the models either give me an answer, think about it, but never told the model, well, hey, try to think of an algorithm. Because I'm guessing these are quite simple programming tasks, but if they told them, okay, give me a Python script that would do this, they would be able to do it. I think somewhere in there they argued about the machine never learns how to make an algorithm, but they never ask for an algorithm.
Yeah, I mean that is a good point. I mean, I suppose I guess what they're trying to do is test their reasoning ability on their own, and I suppose if they're creating an algorithm, I don't know whether there's a counterpoint to that. I need to think about that, but that's a good point.
You can quite often see ChatGPT 4.1 creating a Python file and doing something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a virtual box or something.
But this paper has been doing the rounds, and I wanted to draw it to everyone's attention. You've obviously read this one. I mean, it's a good point. Apple, on the one hand, as I said, they don't have skin in the game, so perhaps they've got an interesting take. On the other hand, they don't have necessarily the strong kind of research team that perhaps a Google or OpenAI would. How far are we paying attention to this? However, I do think what I took from this was that the reasoning models, as smart as they are, I do think they are still falling down at a certain point, and I think we're a long way off from them being able to do very, very complicated.
Our society hasn't, or businesses haven't even really benefited from the non-reasoning models yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Actual business use cases is a long way behind this.
Yeah.
The stuff that we're probably asking is very low complexity.
Yeah, exactly. The stuff that we're probably asking is if we said LRM to people, if we said LLM to most people, they wouldn't necessarily know what it meant. Saying LRM, I think people wouldn't know what it is. Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for coming. We'll draw the meeting to a close. Appreciate your time, and there's a WhatsApp group, and you're welcome to obviously DM me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. This is my page, and I'll just get you the WhatsApp group as well if you'd like to join.
Thanks as always, Harry.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Sure, yeah, I'll get you that and the QR code. Hey, bro. Thank you very much. Thank you, man. Thank you for coming. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Appreciate you coming. paid for. As a providing sandwiches, right?
Yeah.
I think you can definitely do a
Bring up the next already here on a weekly basis, providing guidance, you know. I know listening to get yeah, if you have to get a lot of
This week, he knows they've got online as well. And then it's just too complex. So I recorded it. Is it active?
But you almost wanted to record it as a live.
Yeah, exactly. Just start. I'm really excited to see that.
I think you're going to get
So what adverts are paying for all that data is what they are saying. We have my assistant videos, designers, Cindy Dev is about to lead essentially normal and so the senior dev is coached by PhD, which is a big achievement, and it shows you how qualified you are and how but he still wants to work for that so all of he's able to we are, yes, we're doing lead gen with that. That's a bit difficult because people are joining it all the time. It's not like great business. And I try to see how people which is how people have joined from outside. And and they left Bardos and I took it over and went to those so I didn't set all of that off. I'm just taking it on. And it wasn't my business. Do you know, I think that's so I don't know about you. It's amazing. And I think about it wasn't this coaching. I professionally for me that has taken so much time to be on the because these people outside of Bali it's hard for me to understand. Yeah, so trying to get it's like really thinking so then I don't have the time and I don't want to take such a time sink and I can't be to properly moderate that. Yes, so that's probably the way the way that it's a good way so I enjoy hosting because like I said, it's a good way
I love listening to talks. So
you can work with that.
And then what's the
oh, Lucia, yeah, he's got so when everyone because it's public information, like we have Sean, the news publisher, and I really like Sean because we have this we put out something so both journalists, so that was the story.
Would you open the data let's come 20 minutes we're going to brainstorm an idea, 60 minutes we're going to build it themselves.
I wouldn't do that because I think building it it takes a while to treat it's work so today.
Not to worry. I think it would be interesting because like myself, I think this is really interesting. Simple product. What do you do? That is training. Someone doesn't get it wrong. Yeah, it's also like, I don't know, for me, when it's such a fun example, you can do this in one time. You can't have full stack. So, yeah, it's on the
Yeah, I don't, that's
people who
about
are since then, it's going to be
yeah, like for me, like, it's stuff so I enjoy it more, so I really like I was so focused on
because you see that video.
That's what I mean. I'm not like curious for me. That's all I did. When we talk about it, I'm so used to all these things and stuff. So you get used to these now I don't actually see it going on. Now it's not going
Go away, make this the craziest video. Figure out
sounds like a standard.
Which is actually it's funny, it's literally what I built out for a client. Same way you're doing it.
Because they have people that see with the
Yeah, exactly. They may have 40 applicants, so they keep it. It looks like recycling somewhere else. Do it every week. Just like this constant. What I found was interesting. I don't know if you know stuff Black Portrait. And then they started using just pictures of themselves and then using flags to train more.
But this is
Zoom meetings with the she was literally sitting there waiting for that order. So I'm just trying to save her time to make it, but I was looking at it like this would be great for like live like podcasts and stuff like that. What scares me is how fast it's about to change.
Like, you know, I mean, like,